The sugarcane man represents the Ugandan warlord Joseph Kony, who operated in northern Uganda for more than 2 decades. Although Uganda is at peace today, the region still grieves for the children who were abducted, killed, and the millions who were displaced from their homes. We dedicate this short film to the people of northern Uganda, especially the children. To this day, Joseph Kony still has not been found, and such efforts have been abandoned. But his legacy of loss remains.
For our global and local audiences, we have a sneak peek into Jamaica's dynamic and vibrant creative industries. This session will showcase successful local producers within the film, animation, and music industries right here in Jamrock. The discussion will be led by the Film Commissioner of Jamaica, RENEE Robinson, who will be joined by Jamaican filmmaker SAULTER, whose feature film Sprinter is currently streaming on Netflix. You have to watch it. And Sky Cinema. We also have music producer and CEO of Grafton Studio, MIKIE Bennett, who has composed and produced music for international artists such as Ziggy Marley, Maxi Priest, and UB40, just to name a few. And finally, CEO of Liquid Light Digital and Jamrock Animation, a man with several advertising and animation accolades under his belt, Adrian Lopez. Now, the live chat feature is where you can ask the panelists all your burning questions. And without further ado, let's get right into it.
Hi, good afternoon, good morning, good day, wherever in the world you are. Thank you for joining us here at Kingston Virtual Edition for 2021. My name is RENEE Robinson. I am the Film Commissioner of Jamaica, and it is an absolute pleasure to be here with you today. We are going to be talking about the film, animation, and music sectors in Jamaica. I know you've been participating in Kingston all week, and you've had a wide variety of panels and conferences and guest speakers. And today, no different. We have an absolutely stellar lineup. And in fact, as we were doing our prep briefing right before going live just now, I had a joke with our panelists that their bios were going to be much too long and fabulous for me to read. So I will ask them all to introduce themselves as well. But to let you know who it is that's joining you in the room today, we have Adrian Lopez, who is an award-winning animator and CEO of, well, Jamrock Animation, now Liquid Light, initially Jamrock Animation, and also VR Studios. So he's going to be talking about his space in the animation industry. We have Storm SAULTER, who is probably, I think, one of the darlings of the Jamaican film industry. We love Storm, we love his work. He's one of our most award-winning and prolific filmmakers, with the most recent successes of Sprinter, which is now out on Netflix and on a few other streaming platforms as well. And we also have MIKIE Bennett, who honestly just an absolute veteran and prolific industry member in the music industry. He is a CEO of Grafton Studios with a long history in the recording industry, and he has worked with some of the most high-profile music industries and recording artists in Jamaica's history and internationally. And you really do have a wealth of knowledge in this group with us today. And so I am honored and pleased to be here. It's such a pleasure to be able to moderate the session today. Thank you all for joining us. And I'm going to just let the audience know. So we are going to be taking Q&A after the session. So feel free to put your questions in the chat box. They will be received and the questions will be moderated. We're going to continue the rest of the session as we are, but your questions will be answered at the end of the seminar. So please enjoy the rest of the session. I'm going to welcome our speakers, Adrian, Storm, MIKIE. Thank you again for being here. And we're going to just jump right in. And I'm going to go alphabetically. So we're going to start with Adrian. And if you can just tell us a little bit about yourself, about your company, and what has the animation industry been like for you this year?
Okay, well, my company is Liquid Light Digital, as you said, and we, Jamrock Animation is actually a brand under Liquid Light Digital. So we have Jamrock Animation, which focuses primarily on developing our own IPs. Then we have Advert 360, which is more focused on the VR side of things. So we kind of branched out our skill set that we had developed under Liquid Light into Jamrock Animation and Advert 360. We've been around since about 2002, so that's quite a long time. And we've kind of seen the industry sort of change and morph as technology has become more democratized and cheaper, so everybody can jump into it, but it's also made things more challenging in other ways. It's harder to stand out. There's a lot of content out there, and there are new channels out there. So we're looking at capitalizing on all of that. In terms of projects, we have a couple of children's television shows that we're working on under Jamrock. We have a feature film that we're working on that we've been working with the British Council Film Lab on developing that. And we have a couple of other projects in the works right now. So it's an exciting time.
Great, thanks, Adrian. Looking forward to hearing more about that. And well, as you know, I've seen some of the projects in the works and some of the other programs that you mentioned. So definitely rooting for you in all of those areas. All right, MIKIE, turning over to you. We're going to the next letter in the alphabet.
Oh, I've been at it for a while. When I heard my bird Adrian say a long time, I was just smiling to myself. I mean, I've been at this for a while, from the 80s. We started Grafton, open Grafton Studios in the early 90s, and it's been everything that I was hoping that owning a studio would have been. Well, I mean, I haven't been there for the past 6 months though. But I remember before we had the studio, I was driving home one night and this song came to me, and the song was just coming. I mean, you know, sometimes you get like an idea. But by the time I got up near Mountain View, I had almost the whole song. And I turned back down to the studio. We had a little room there. And when I went back there, woke up my cousin who was the engineer. I said, listen, we have to put on this idea. And that night I'm saying, boy, and to me, it's one of the best songs I've ever done. And I think to myself, how much I almost didn't get this song. Because you know, it's the kind of thing it happened now and then. You think you remember it tomorrow, but you don't remember it tomorrow. But that has been my journey. I've been blessed by having some really good mentors, including Gussie Clark and King Jammies. And I've been privileged to mentor quite a few young people, starting off with Brian Anthony and Chevelle Franklin, and then moving on. And so I had, I mean, while at Jammies, under the tutelage of Bobby Digital, I met Shabba Ranks and we just hit it off, and I did an album with him, and we were able to do some collaborations with him and Home Tea. And then one day I got a call from Colombia. Listen, we're doing a Shabba album. We needed to write a couple songs, just a couple songs. So through that, I was able to be a part of the Shabba journey. So we had an R&B hit house call, and it changed my life. The whole, I mean, you're young and you're hoping and you're dreaming about things, but I never even dreamt. My dreams didn't go that far in terms of what it would mean. And even while it was happening, I didn't fathom it. It was later on when realize that how few people get to have a song on the R&B charts and get to be considered. You see your name in a billboard, or you go to a football game in America and you hear them playing one of your songs. And because we grew up in Jamaica, where we're so close to media, it didn't mean as much to me as it meant to my brothers and my relatives in America. Every time they heard something, it was hey. But then again, like I said, I've been blessed. In more recent times, I've had the privilege of working with some youngsters at UTech under a program called Free Jamaica, Masters in Residence, where we've been able to come up with a template, pretty much like track and field, to sort of identify, groom, and nurture young people. And I had no idea I would enjoy teaching as much, mentoring as much, under a system. That lasted for 2 years, but it has left within me this because wanting to do some more of that. So my next thing going to be master classes and all kind of things, documenting, and so I'm really happy to be among these giants in this other other side of the creative spectrum, and looking forward to this evening's conversation.
Dear man, absolutely. Thanks, Mikey. And good to see that you're reinventing as well. Opportunity favors the prepared. And so, you're taking these opportunities now and shifting into different areas. So that's great. Although I have to tell you, so just recently I screened a documentary that was executive produced by Shaggy, and it was talking about the birth of modern dancehall in Jamaica. And when you mentioned, so you're mentioned in it, King Jammy's mentioned in it, some of the people that you've been working with are all mentioned in this documentary that I recently screened. So definitely a pleasure to have you here and to be.
What's the name of the documentary?
Experience. It's not released yet, so. Oh. I got a sneak peek, one of the perks of being the film commissioner. But
okay, cool.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Mikey. And speaking of film, let's head over to you, Storm. So tell us a little bit about yourself, what you've been working on, what has this year been like, and everything that's going on.
Yeah, man. Well, blessings. Thank you, Kingston, for having me, and also it's great to be a part of this panel. I definitely feel like I'm amongst people who are giants and really doing it, doing it for the culture and beyond. In terms of film and my journey, I'm from Negril, Westmoreland, and grew up in a very creative family, and always knew I had to make art. And somewhere along the line, and taking photos and all of these things, I just realized cinema to me feels like the ultimate art form. It just feels like something that combines so many things, architecture, fashion, lighting, music, so much, right? So obviously that's what I needed to do. So I tried to go for that. And when I finished high school in Jamaica, I didn't leave Jamaica knowing I was going to go to film school, but I just knew I had to go, get out. And ended up having the opportunity to go to LA Film School, which was very hands-on. And I had a number of mentors along the way, like Director X, music video director, used to be Little X, and others along the way that kind of took me under their wing. And I just think I wanted to make films, but there's all these different spaces, music video, animation, art. I've always been making visual art. I'm always showing work in galleries or National Gallery, Museum, internationally, whatever. And I'm a multi-hyphenate artist, I guess. But to me, it always comes back to film and to cinema, right? So in terms of my projects, sorry, my dog in my bark, hope he's not making too much noise. But, my first feature film was Better Must Come, which for a first film and for it to be a period piece was quite a large undertaking. But again, we had to tell that story, and that was a story about Jamaica, a very transformative time in the 70s to 80s, and worked with a bunch of filmmakers to start the New Caribbean Cinema Collective, which was basically our effort to find a way to make films without really having the elephant in the room, which is the money. How can we leverage all the talent in Jamaica, all of the drive of these other filmmakers, folks who want to make their first short film, have been doing other things, and it was a community effort. We all worked on each other's films. We made 7 short films. We turned them into a feature film, showed them at festivals, streamed it, did all of that. And then my most recent project is Sprinter, which also did well on festivals and is now on Netflix and is all up across Africa streaming. It's in over 40 countries in Africa. It's in the UK, and it's available worldwide. So for me, I've just been trying to build steps and try to make pathways for the work that I want to make. But the idea is every time we kind of cut a path and prove a point and prove our viability, it's for a group of us to now come through and just keep building on that. I'm excited about this because I'm really interested in animation and design. I can speak about it a little bit more as we go along, but there are stories that I think animation are best suited for, and I'll speak on that a little more too.
Great, thanks, Storm. And I also need to tell you a little backstory as well, because I remember coming to Flashpoint. And it was, I used to love coming down to Negril when that was going on, which was one of those early film festivals with, I think, was that New Caribbean Cinema and Ring the Alarm was that all in the same time period, right?
No, it wasn't. That time period, we were making a bunch of short films, and Better Must Come, the first cut was like, the final Flashpoint was when we showed the first cut of Better Must Come. And
I think I was there.
in Port Royal, yeah. So no, exciting times. And I think it influenced a lot of the other film festivals that have been in the Caribbean as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So absolute pleasure to have you here. So thank you. Thank you all, gentlemen. And well, as you had started out, Storm, thank you to Kingston for having us, and particularly to our partners as well, the World Bank and the Office of the Prime Minister, who are making this happen. So making it possible for us to be here, to have this conversation. Now, as you know, today we're going to be talking about a little bit of a diversion from the core focus of the Kingston Animation Festival. We're going to be talking about all of the various disciplines. So film, animation, and music. We're going to talk about the intersection. We're going to talk about what that means for Jamaica right now, for the Caribbean right now, to be a part of these sectors. And so that's where I really want to start us off. And I'm going to just ask you guys to, encourage, unmute yourselves, open the conversation. I want this to be a free-flowing discussion, so not like a pointed Q&A to you. But I want us to talk first about, where are we right now? What are you guys seeing as the existing state of the industry for film, animation, music in Jamaica, in the Caribbean right now? There's so much work that has been done and so much more to do. So, from your experience, your perspective, where are we now, state of the industry for film, animation, and music? I'll probably ask Adrian, maybe you want to start because we are leading off with the animation side, and then Storm and Mikey jump in as well.
Well, as I was saying, I think this is a time of great change. I think, and the pandemic has helped with that. But even before that, we saw these changes happening where traditional broadcast channels were losing viewers to more mobile, on-demand channels. And I think as a result of that, we've now got more avenues to show our content. And it's just a matter of finding the right channel for your content, and where all that means. And along with those opportunities comes the challenge, of course, that there's so many more providers of content out there that it's now more of a challenge to separate yourself and make yourself stand out in that crowd. I think that's the essential thing of where we're all heading. That's really where it is.
Okay, cool. Storm, Mikey, thoughts?
No, I mean, I had to research Adrian. I mean, I'm in the industry, and it was kind of preposterous that I wasn't as familiar as I should be with it. But I mean, well, I asked him all, and of course, she went on about, the thing. But then I did my own research. I mean, I know Storm long time. I know most thing about Storm and thing. But it speaks to something that we need to deal with in Jamaica. How somebody as involved as myself in the creative industry, not as aware of Adrian. And like I said, I see this as a new frontier. All of these youngsters sitting in front of screens every day, and they're making beats, and they're making music, and they're making, but it all comes down to creativity. Our dancehall scene, our party scenes represent almost caricatures of the culture sometimes. People dressed up as this, people carrying on, people overdoing things, but it's part of the creative expulsion, then, the explosion of the Jamaican culture, which is just a wonderful and fascinating thing to be a part of. And I just want to play a role in making sure that a lot of the youngsters who have the talent and can feel that here is something that I can get into. I'd love to get to know a little more about the whole process. I know it has to be very demanding based on what I've seen with a motion graphic person we had at the lab. But unlike people from my generation, this generation now don't seem to have a problem sitting down in front of a screen for hours and hours and coming up with stuff. Right now, it's majority is audio, but I figure if that once it's opened up, I mean, you see every now and then, as Tom would probably see, youngsters using them iPhone to come up with a little new video for the stuff. And this is the next step. That's the next step of of exposing the culture, of hearing out the culture, So I'm really excited about the possibilities of it and want to be not so far away from it in the next couple of years. I want to at least be hands-on to know who the players are, what the potentials are, so I can whether lend my influence or just be a part of it, have it as another tool to expose our audio creativity.
And following on what Mikey was saying, I've always felt this way about us being maybe whatever it is about Jamaica's history, whether the fact that we were a colony and we have these very kind of set ideas of what you should be trying to do, what you should be aiming for, what's worthy. It's taken a very long time for that. I mean, it's still very much implanted in people's minds. Like there's a lot of youths I find that I will meet that may go to school and they're not really set, like that environment is rough for them, not because they're not super smart, but it's just, it's not so open to like different folks learning different ways. And also the types of careers you can go for, you still think the only relevant ones, the only ones that can make money are just, the regular doctor, lawyer, yada, yada, yada. And maybe it's a little bit expanded, but the reality is that's still planted. And then there's a lot of youths that because they know that they're not drawn to that, it will even themselves, they will say, yeah, man, me no make for school, or me no this, or me no that. Like I found that before, but then you find that same person is a flipping genius when it comes to motion, editing, sound, harmony, like, I've known many of these youths, and many youths who just, their circumstances mean they just never had the opportunity to even go to a school that really had certain things. So I've always thought we need to broaden the ideas of what are viable career opportunities. A lot of those classical careers are overcrowded anyways. And in the film industry, as you know, we have some very great film professionals, but if two big movies come here one time, you can hardly, staff to them with the same level of talent. So
true.
A lack, and I need. Sorry, go ahead, Mikey.
No, I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah, so there is a need. There are open positions. Like I need to find some more folks that are in, say, art department, or are in, camera, or in, it's like I actually need that. People always, jobs might come to me that I can't handle and I want to move around. But a lot of youths don't even know those opportunities are there. So there's like a link there that we need to kind of connect, because a youth who feel like he's not meant for school or meant for this approach just doesn't realize yet that the thing he wants to do is actually a viable thing, and that's a gap we need to bridge. I know Edna Manley is kind of is a school where a lot of our creative kids end up going to, and even in that environment, I think we should just keep, I just said, Michael, like how you find an athlete early and you recognize what their talent is and you're funding to their event, and we need to be doing that. And because at the end of the day, that is why Jamaica is the cool place Jamaica. It's because of our culture. So let's get like mechanized about how we pull up this creative talent is my thought. And yeah,
man, absolutely.
Like high school should have classes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think they do have animation at Cape at present moment. But again, you're absolutely right. Like the actual funneling in the same way that we do it for the sports industry, are we also doing it for the entertainment industry? And Adrian, you touched on how digital technologies have changed. Mikey, you spoke about that too. I mean, and so obviously the opportunity for stepping into these opportunities is shifting and changing and growing and blooming, but are we in fact stepping into these opportunities in the most efficient manner?
Well, yeah, this is as you speak about that, because I've had my own thoughts on this, and then I feel that we're talking about our colonial background that Storm mentioned. We tend to think of training in the same way we've always thought of training, where you must come in and you sign up for a 2-year degree and degree programs and that sort of thing. And I think that alienates much of the target that we're trying to get. And we need to have programs in place where they can work directly intern with the studios and work hands-on right away, rather than going into this long 2-year degree that's going to cost how much money. Come up with other programs, which is what we're working on now, where we can bring in people to train with us, and we train them right up from the start to work in a production environment, rather than they go and spend all this time in university or in a college to develop a skill that by the time they graduate may well have changed beyond what it was when they started.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Mikey, I imagine you've seen quite a bit of that informality in the music industry side of it. But there's always, as you said, there's always talent coming out. There's always people who want to get into the business and who are trying to advance through these informal ways, right?
Yeah, and because of the sheer numbers of, like I've mentioned before, that our studio population has exploded. I mean, when I opened my studio, there were probably about 30 studios of the kind in Jamaica. Now there are probably over 3,000.
Wow.
Right.
Okay.
What it has meant is that there has been a significant fluctuation in the level of the quality then. So you start from bad mixes to really good mixes. But there's an absence, there's a need for a structure to post situation train a lot of these people. So we need a mentorship system, we need an apprenticeship system, and we also need to expose a lot of these people who are doing that to all the other areas, the motion graphics, the film, because creativity knows no ends. And a lot of people who are doing music now, because they love being in front of a computer, would be well suited to be editors. If you can use Pro Tool and mix a song, I mean, with a little training, you can be an editor. Right. You just want to know that, okay, once every year, Storm or Adrian putting on some workshops that gonna say to people, listen, or to the government that be, here is something that you need to enroll youngsters, because we need to move them to another level so that they can be more employable, and we can start marketing them to the rest of the Caribbean, to the rest of the world. If you want a Jamaican feel in your motion graphics, check Adrian. And Adrian have a whole cadre of youngsters who are going to say, listen, I have a bidder for a client. Right now, I have not been to my studio in a couple of months, but I have not stopped working. A client called me and said, Sabi, I need certain thing. I have 3 musicians, 3 set of people I call. I say, listen, I need a beat for this. I send it to 3 of you. Usually, has one of them guys send me back something that I can use. So in other words, it can be remote, but these people all of them were trained by Edna Manley, which is like, so in other words, people like myself can utilize talents, that developed talent, but also I want to assist in the development of these talents, the helping to place them, helping to identify them, batting for them with governments or with various agencies to fund, not hand out, but fund education, fund hands-on education. I think Jamaica needs at least Edna Manley needs to put in a reference music so we can know whether we think sound good. And I'm sure Storm would love to see some more, CPTC get more equipped so when people come into him as apprentice, they're not coming green with the eyes open. And same with Adrian, some place that him can pass once a week and lecture and do a thing. So the country needs to recognize what you guys have and what it can mean to developing other youngsters. And that has to be the future. That has to be the goal of some education ministry, some people. And if it's not the goal, we have to get together as creatives and say, listen, here is what we're going to do this.
Yeah, and I think it's also interconnected as well, because even so, Mikey, you mentioning that there are, to your mind, currently about 3,000 entities that function in a studio capacity of, various, as you said, some different quality levels and whatever. Adrian and Storm, what would you estimate? And we actually we've just concluded an economic impact study, which it's in its final stages now. But even that, like, what would you guys say is the current state and the current capacity for expansion? I think of it in terms of accordion type, scale up, scale down for the animation companies that exist and for the film companies that exist.
You want to start off, Storm?
Okay. For me, as I say, I think there's opportunity for people in many fields here, because look, for an example, I think for Sprinter, like thousands of people were hired in every single thing, from catering, construction, like makeup, wardrobe, so in this, that, like painting, like going all the way through. So I think recognizing that can be ongoing. I mean, one of the things I'm more pushing into TV as well. So especially in terms of what I've been doing for the last year, I've always been developing projects, but what the pandemic has done is it created a slowdown in production, and I said, okay, let me spend that time getting all these ideas properly baked. And one of the big goals is to continue to get film projects that are shot primarily here or heavily shot here. But the real goal is to get a TV series greenlit here, because then you're talking about 6 months or more of locked in things. And at that point, you have to train people just to sustain it. And I feel like, and I'm gonna say nothing yet, but it's moving. It actually is moving. We're developing Sprinter into a TV series, and it has legs. It's going places. Like, so hopefully I can make some announcements soon. But and there's other projects that we have in development too. But it's like thinking, how can we create a situation where the money is gonna be there, because the thing has to be created, and then you can kind of fill people in. There will be department heads from other places that will come in, and they'll need that support. So I think a big goal is bringing work here that provides opportunities to get everybody trained and pulled up a bit. And then beyond just big projects coming here, I feel like just the established industry needs more people. I think it can handle more people. And I see whole new sets of folks, enough work where Muda here, Bota, Yuda here, other people, that's sorted. Like there's a lot of teams. So it's actually happening. So I do think Jamaica is always a place that people are coming to shoot stuff. Our musicians bring a lot of production here. There's a lot of production happening here. Filming our Jamaican talent, photographing them, everything. So there's always need for that. NPR is doing stuff, Rolling Stone, everybody's doing stuff. So I do think that this industry can really broaden out, and if we can do and I know, like animation, for example, because it requires this, as far as I understand it, like a lot, like people, processing power. It's like almost factories. It's art, but you're doing it in this, like stacked.
You need enough people.
Yeah, we need enough people, and I think that's our fundamental problem. We don't have enough people, especially in the animation and visual effects industry. We just don't have enough people. We don't have the population of India or the Philippines who are kicking it in animation now. But we don't have that volume of people. So the people that we do have, we have to really train them up well, and then once the project's coming in, once you have a lot of projects coming in, the training will have to happen. As Storm says, it has to happen. We're trying to create our own projects. We have our own animation project, but we also have our own TV shows that are working as well. And we're designing the show specifically to need animation and visual effects. We have, I don't know if you remember the project that we spoke to you about, to the Film Commission about Dark Waters, the horror and anthology series. We've got 13 episodes already scripted, and each one of those episodes are going to need visual effects and animation. But they're all live action series, typical anthology horror series. But they're all going to need visual effects and animation, and that's something that our studio by itself can't do. So we may have to outsource to Trinidad and hopefully around the region and get everybody together to produce these shows. But I think that has to happen in order to get the volume of people that we need. Because we're a small island.
So it's, I mean, the opportunities are there, and you know, people are willing and are ready and willing. We need to bring them. We need to make sure that they're available and that they're trained. Have either of you seen any shifts in global demand? I mean, we started talking a little bit about Jamaica, and you know, we all know Jamaica is the home of cool. So, you know, have any of you seen any shifts in global demand towards identifying more Jamaican content or talent for either outsourcing or for working? I mean, I know productions are always coming in, but have you seen any shifts in that in terms of, you know, just the cultural legacy of Jamaica?
I think we're seeing more of a call for diverse content. I don't know about specifically Jamaican content, but certainly they're looking for more diverse content, even in animation, hair love, and that sort of thing. They're looking for darker skinned people to be to be represented in film and television. As to how much that actually plays to what actually gets funded, I'm still not sure. You know, it's talk is cheap. But when we went to Cannes, for example, everybody's talking about diversity content, but the number of projects that were actually diverse, that got money and got funded and produced, seemed to be a lot less than they were talking about. So I'm not sure how well that translates.
Yeah, I would add on to that I think what happens, you know, and just in the time I've been like trying to pitch projects to Hollywood basically and to industry people, I've actually seen projects that like people are like, nah, don't bring that up to me. How are we gonna get an American in there, or how are we gonna do this, or how are we gonna like no, keep it in Jamaica. No, that's what we want, right? What really I guess makes a difference is not the artists as much as the people in the decisions. Now there's companies that have like more diverse executives. They have consultants that deal specifically with like ensuring your diverse content is not, you know, opportunity, like, so there is a certain amount of backroom stuff that has to keep changing. I think a lot of time, because, you know, some of these folks, if they don't have the experience, they can't make that decision. And then so many people have tried to meet the diversity quota, kind of, you know, faking it a bit and making poor decisions because it's not coming from the right point of view, and they've been called out on it. So now they have to hire these people. So thankfully, the decision-making boards in the larger spaces are changing the way they look. I can see it in the meetings that I'm able to get and the interest I'm able to get in projects. And I imagine that would align to animation. A friend of mine who's a producer just announced a project which is almost like not Powerpuff Girls, but that kind of energy of animation with in Africa, and almost like a Wakanda-esque type
Vanessa's
space.
Project, right?
Vanessa. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, Vanessa's project, and I believe Ika Nyong'o is signed on to be a part of it, and like that exact thing could be from the Caribbean as well. Not the exact thing, but you understand, it's ticking the boxes and it's telling the stories that they're now ready to hear. So everyone wants a piece of it. Michael B. Jordan, anything that is like Afro, futurist, etc. they're on. So, and I'm really excited to hear about what you have going, Adrian, and I hope that you can move, because I think like genre stuff, horror, like all of that is exactly what we need to be doing. And I do feel that because we don't have the numbers, we need to have the ideas to like stand out. That's how we win in Jamaica. Like, it's so hard to make a movie, for example, and I'm sure like a feature length animated, it takes so long. You better not shoot and miss, you know what I mean? You have to really hit the mark. It's not, you know, you don't have the built-in numbers at home that can support economy, so the subject matter doesn't have to be global. Like, nah, our writing needs to just, like, we have to be coming with the ideas, making sure the writing is solid, because I think that's how we win. And I think if we create IP or new ideas that we own, then it's like Studio Ghibli. Like, Studio Ghibli is Studio Ghibli out of Japan because their stories are just out there. Like, the animation is amazing, but it's the most mind-bending stuff that you can watch. And it is, and it's like, I think that's the model that we should go for. And you know.
But Studio Ghibli did have a lot of government support incentives and that sort of thing. I'm just saying.
Yeah, true.
To be honest, just saying, whoever's listening, incentives really help, so that when we do have great ideas and we're looking to bring over production crews to help produce and shoot here in Jamaica, that there's a reason why those investors are going to invest in this project, because they're going to get, rebates or whatever the case may be. That would really help.
Yeah.
That science fiction adventure that we're working on now, and that's fully live action. It's set in Jamaica, way in the future, 150 years, and it takes a look at what Jamaica would look like at that time, and it's going to need a lot of visual effects, a lot of animation, but it's all live action. It's going to be produced, shot like a regular science fiction film. So we're going to need, all that crew can't come from Jamaica. Certainly not the kind of camera equipment we'll need for that. Camera support equipment, motion tracking equipment, all that stuff's going to have to come in from overseas. So all that kind of stuff would be good if we could have something in place that can, incentivize people to come here and produce.
Yeah, I hear you.
Like Trinidad has done. Trinidad is doing fantastic things. Yeah.
I know we're probably going to be running out of time shortly, but I do want to, first of all, to remind the audience that you can put your questions in the Q&A box. But what I want us to definitely make sure that we get covered before we do have to wrap is in terms of, just moving from that global demand for Jamaica, for diversity, for Afrocentric. I know this has been, music industry there's always been this global demand for the music industry, for the Jamaican music industry. But how are we seeing that translate, or not that or any other thing, but how are, where's the money side of it? What are the revenues that you guys are seeing across the globe? I'm not asking you to tell me how much you make, but just where are you seeing the revenues emerge, the different revenue streams emerging? Whether it is through, what you're creating and then finding avenues for distribution or export, or if it is working in collaboration, whether it's partnerships, outsourcing, or, touring, like where are you seeing the revenue streams for these sectors now?
Since the digital age, reggae and dancehall has taken a beat in terms of record sales, music sales. However, the demand for the Jamaican, the dancehall experience, as presented by touring and things, has risen. Still, unfortunately, I think enough people not making it to that other level, but it hasn't deterred. Unlike film and stuff, the capital outlay for a song is not that crazy. And like I said, with kids doing it in their bathrooms and things now, the outlay is not as much. What the music has done though is created this appetite for things Jamaican, brand Jamaica. So the experience that people have going to a dancehall show or a reggae show or coming to Jamaica and going to the various parties, stay with them. And it is by osmosis passed on to family members. So people looking for this kind of thing. So even things like the patois, how we use our languages and things. And I think I must congratulate Storm for how effectively, they have not abandoned the Jamaicanness within the films. I mean, in other times you'd hear, the people with this crazy like a pseudo accent that just turn off me and most Jamaicans. So I'm happy to see that we are proud of the accent now and realize how powerful it is, even if we have to put a little type something below it. The challenge in is going to be how to monetize. And I just got some feedback recently that although our album's not selling so much, the streams for the YouTube channels and the stuff that people do in podcasts have been going up significantly. So it shows that there is interest. I was talking to someone from Africa recently, and they're so excited about wanting to bring, because she's a professional in Africa, and she said in Nigeria, and she says the I mean, she feels so proud to be a Jamaican because everywhere she goes, somebody wants her to sing, somebody wants her to dance because of how we created the thing. And she just wants us to find a way to monetize this world interest. And don't leave, I mean, a lot of times we think America first or, West first. But Africa is there, loving the colors, the rawness of the things that we put in out and things. Another friend in Ghana was telling me that they have these dancehall video parties where they just go and all that is on display, some of the dancehall videos, and guys sit and drink and for hours and spend a lot of money. So that part of the culture is also very, very exciting. So anything that can give these things a chance to cross over. But one of the things that benefited us in Jamaica, me personally, was when our music started to cross over into the R&B charts and stuff, and realized that with a little tweaking by an American remix and thing, without diluting our thing, we can turn it over to somebody to give an American interpretation. So it worked, so you end up with a house call, or you end up with a Shaggy's album, or things like that, or with what Sean Paul been doing. It's not happening for enough of us, but still, and all the audience for Jamaican stuff, Caribbean stuff, continues to grow, and is just waiting for the next set of superstars to be unleashed, them to be discovered and trained with that kind of thing.
Well, I'll jump in. So I was thinking that in terms of where the money is, it's if you're a creative that works in audiovisuals, you're a director like me. I direct commercials as well, and I do think the commercial world work, doing advertising or branded entertainment or whatever, definitely is a big, props up a lot of the creatives' lives. That's a lot of the creatives' almost day jobs, is doing this commercial, doing this and doing that. Every once in a while, you need to make great art doing that stuff, because sometimes the right project, I mean, if you're doing a commercial about, a can of beans, you might not be able to make great art. But if you're doing a commercial, about a brand that is, aligning with lifestyle or sport or something where the art and, all of that comes in, all of a sudden, you have the equipment and a palette to really do something that's visually great. I mean, I find a lot of the tricks that I learn and try to put into my films, I test it out on somebody else's equipment and somebody else's shoot, so that I can pull it in. So there's definitely always a cross-section of the corporate commercial world that keeps a lot of us going, that is not going to change. And I think we should build out more expertise to be able to provide more services. I remember doing commercial campaigns here where, certain things they want to feel like we have to go overseas to get, and I don't think that should be the case. And I do see a lot now, like things are at a point now where that's not necessary. Like there's no aesthetic or style that is not achievable by our local, say, animators or VFX folks, you know what I mean, for the most part in that world. So I do think we need to build out our ability to service that industry in Jamaica, in the region, internationally. Like when, these international companies are sending people here, like they don't need to send all of their top people. Like a lot of times, at a certain point, Puma realized, man, why are we gonna keep flying in directors to do this shoot with Bolt when we know that Storm can do it? That's really what happened, because I was putting up in the position like by Maxine Walters and her team to even be on those sets and to show what I could do. But once you get it on your show, now they're like, no, okay, yeah, he can do it. We know what he can do. And I think we need to show that we have international ability. In terms of the other money, like, yeah, we are making films that can be put on streaming, that can be distributed. I mean, there is a certain level of quality, storytelling, awareness, etc., that you need to kind of hit. But if you hit it, you can find a home. You can find a home. And a lot of these, and it's going to keep changing in a year. It's going to be even more intense, and people are looking for localized content. So I think like you can tell your Caribbean story. We just have to get to the point where you could watch it in another country with subtitles and feel like, yeah, we're doing it. I do think that we have a lot of talent, and the place we need strengthening is story. We have so much great literature to be adapted. We have so many great young storytellers. I think we need to strengthen our ability to tell stories that connect on a global level and to put that into all of the things we put out. And then we'll be really cooking on gas and really turning out a lot of stuff that can cross the waters, you know? Because I think that's kind of key. You know, it's key for our work to hit outside of Jamaica. Also, another thing, in this viral time, I know time I run, you know, there's these youths like the Prince Pines and so on who are so talented and they're doing it with their phone and like a mop and a bucket, and the lo-fi-ness is what's kind of funny about it. But the creativity is absolutely endless. And if your idea is good enough, it will go viral. Just send it to, you know, ZJ Sparks. And if she like, you know, she go and drop it on her Instagram and it's gonna go zhoosh, right? So it is really down to the idea stage. And if production can kind of match up, you know what I mean? I think like if you make a 5-minute thing that is genius, it's gonna go viral and you have to build on that. One more thing, sorry. Someone made a fan video of like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, right? They made, what if Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was a dramatic series and they did a trailer that nobody asked them to do. They just did it to prove what they could do. That is now becoming a series, right? Because it went viral, right? So, you know, just take the steps.
Definitely. Definitely.
I think. I mean, all that is fantastic to hear those stories, but I think also at the same time we have to remain realistic about the whole model of filmmaking and revenue, because we were introduced during the film lab. We were introduced to the revenue waterfall by some overseas producers who came in and they came and gave us some seminars on the whole idea of revenue and how it all breaks out, and they gave us the harsh reality that Lord of the Rings has yet to turn a profit. People have made money off it, but the project itself has not made a profit. So when we're going into this whole filmmaking and animation, feature films, you need to have an understanding of how that works, because you can get in problems committing a lot of time and effort into doing something that will never really see the light of day, because there are many other aspects that are not going to happen. So you need to research the project carefully, look at other ways to earn money, repurpose your skills, repurpose your content, your media into other things that can earn money, especially when you're look at what people are looking for, what they need, and cater to that, rather than coming up with something out of the blue and saying, hey, buy this. Look at what people are looking for and tailor make a product to fit that, whether it's promoting their product, their services, or whatever the case may be. But don't expect them to buy what you want to make. Consider making what they need and sell them that. I think that's another way of looking at it.
Absolutely. And I think that's definitely a Sinchan. I mean, well, Adrian, Storm, you guys know this about me, but I'm all about the business. And so as much as we know that we need to be able to have persons who are trained in the technical craft of stuff, one of the core factors that we need are people within our industry who understand the business of entertainment. Right. And I know this has also been something that has plagued the music industry, is because everybody wants to be an artist, but you know, who's handling the business, who's handling the money, who's making sure that, you know, as Adrian, as you mentioned, the waterfall economy, or you know, any of the other types of structures which are prevalent and which are well known in other economies, in other jurisdictions that have mature and robust entertainment economies. All of those structures that are embedded, those are some of the things that we also need to start having a mastery on. Right. So, you know, I think that's definitely an area that, you know, we look at what it is that we have in terms of our cultural legacy, what it means to be a Jamaican creative, what that means in terms of competing within an international marketplace, being able to create what it is that the audiences are demanding, whether it is film, animation, or music. There's always a demand from an audience. So looking at what it is that we're going to be able to create for that, to meet that demand, ensuring that we have the resources and the skills that are on the ground. And as you said, Storm, you know, a lot of our international companies, I mean, the math that we've done is that now we're probably about maybe 65-70% local crew when an international production comes in. They're just bringing in heads of departments at this point. So, you know, we're seeing some of that starting to shift now, and a lot more quickly than it had before. And then, of course, you know, even in terms of music and finding things like synchronization opportunities for Jamaican music within any of our screen-based projects, because there is always this vibe and this demand for the Jamaican music. And many times that is what draws people to our screen products as well. I'm sure, Storm, you experienced that with Sprint and the soundtrack, you know, so trying to make sure that those interconnections are there, but definitely like bringing it back home to saying that we need to make sure that we are also understanding the business of things and that we're structuring our business deals in a way that's going to become viable for all of us as creatives in this space.